Welcome, everybody, to Broadcast Team Alpha. So good to have you here again tonight. Really excited about the guests that we have tonight. You know that we are your one-stop shop for everything quantum, and it just keeps growing. So Sunday night, Augie has the... Welcome, everybody, to Broadcast Team Alpha. Augie has the... hold on, we're getting a little bit of... feedback from somewhere. I'm sure it's me. Okay. So
Sounds
Sunday
good.
night at 8 p.m. Eastern, Augie has the paranormal show, which is always interesting and intriguing. And then on Friday at 7:30, we have a quick quantum well-being show where we cover everything well-being, right? I mean, from body to mind, spirit, and soul, we go all over the board. And then, of course, we have the Tuesday night show where we have amazing guests like Reverend Lisa that Augie's going to tell you about in a minute. We are going on a mystical, magical, amazing ride tonight, but we want to invite you to join us. You can join us at broadcastteamalpha.com. There is a page there, a link if you want to ask us any questions or send us a message. And of course, we have the membership group right here on YouTube. Augie is back there loading up the back room for just the members, filled with information and videos and exclusive content. And then we'd like to introduce you to, or invite you to, depending upon if you're new to us tonight, to the Mastermind Connection. It is like a spiritual think tank, but we come together. It could be a spiritual think tank if you were more of persuasion where you talk in terms of prayer. We come together to create the image of beautiful, benevolent, loving things that we want to see in the world, in ourselves, and in each other. And we just mastermind on that through a beautiful meditation and an imagery journey, and really miraculous things have happened. If you would like to join us, send an email to mastermindconnection@gmail.com, all one word. And we would love to have you there at Sunday, 2 p.m. Eastern. And it's really a lot of fun. So Augie, please tell us about our lovely guest.
Oh, yes, I will. This is going to be fun. We have...
I can't hear you. Can you guys hear him?
Yeah, we can hear you.
It's me.
Yeah, we have Lisa Barnett with us. And I want to kind of mention her website also for those of you that like to surf the internet while you are watching the show, because then you got one ear on the internet and you one ear on us, and that works fine. And Lisa is is an Akashic record expert and founder of the Akashic Knowing School of Wisdom. So tonight we are stepping out into the wilderness of the spiritual world again, where all the good stuff is. And it appears as everything we think, imagine, and do is recorded somewhere in the Akashic Records. We will also visit what happens before we are born. Why are we here? Why do we have so many goofy and strange people in our life? Did we invite them to come and join us, or what? Is there actually a plan for what we are going through? Maybe we even have a purpose. Why is all the garbage happening to us sometimes? Could we, in a rash of stupidity, have agreed to some of that? Well, let's find out. Who better to talk about this than our guest tonight, Lisa Barnett. She has written several books on it. One of them is Akasha, Your Soul Has a Plan. Another one is Awaken to Your Life Purpose Through the Akashic Records. And the third one is The Infinite Wisdom of the Akashic Records. And she's got more books on it. And she has some tools so we can go there and have a look. And she can help us with the looking part as well as the healing after we discover what is there. So let's find out some more. Welcome to the show, Lisa.
Welcome, Lisa.
Thank you. I'm just really thrilled to be here with you two tonight. So thank you for having me on.
It is our pleasure. Thank you so much. And so I love to just get to know the amazing person that you are before we get into the nuts and bolts, which is very exciting. And how did all this come up for you, Lisa? I mean, can you trace it back to your childhood, or did you know this was coming? How did that happen?
You know, I actually do trace it back to my childhood. So my earliest memory was I was a little toddler. I was, 3 or so years old. And I remember standing in the kitchen with my mother, and I was trying to explain something to her. And she obviously wasn't understanding me because I was like, I'm so frustrated. And I remember literally looking at my hands and thinking, oh no. No, right? I'm trapped in a body again. And I had this memory of not being in a body, with my two dearest soul sisters kind of hanging out in the etheric energy before coming down, and thinking, and I said to my mom, I want to go back. Right? I want to go home. So she could never figure out how to send me home. So here I still am. But it triggered me to literally start my spiritual path when I was about 13, 14 years old, when I could actually start to read like adult spiritual books. And so I started to study at a very early age.
Oh, that's fun. Well, I'm glad she didn't send you back, or I'm glad you didn't figure out how to go back. So happy to have you here. That's amazing. It's amazing how for so many of us, we do trace it back to that time when we're so fresh, in the body, yet still so close to where we came from. So I love it. I love it.
I know the veil is still pretty thin. Right? The veil is thin when we're so young, right? So a lot of kids at that, like 1, 2, 3, still have those memories. And then, by the time we're going to school and getting busy out there in the world, we definitely, we just forget, we just,
yes.
Yeah.
And conversely, do you think now, with everything, the acceleration, the awakening, the age of Aquarius, how do you feel that the status of the veil is now?
Yes, I completely believe it is thinning. I have to say that, I came here, definitely. I know so many of the light workers on the planet have come here for this moment in time. And I don't think we actually thought it was going to take quite this long, or I might not have come in as early as I did. But, right? Nothing is written in stone, is what the record keepers always say. But we really are speeding up time. The veil is thinning. I kind of laugh because I ask the Akashic Record keepers, how will I know, right? How will I know, like, that we finally made it into like the 5th dimension?
Yeah.
And they say, I look out a big picture window and there's golden California hills out there. And they say, you will see the unicorns ride over the hill.
Oh,
and
my goodness.
Think, I can't wait for that day.
That's a pretty definitive sign.
Yeah.
I love it. So who are the record keepers, so to speak?
Right. Oh, always a fabulous question, because people often have a kind of an idea of what the Akashic Records are. But I think very few people know that there are beings of light that are in service to you, keeping your records. So I tend to see the Akashic Record as a library. And so I consider the Akashic Record keepers our personal librarians. And to me, the thing that is so beautiful is that every single person has their own library. Right, there's big collective group libraries and libraries of like the earth and of science and of different things. But each soul has its own library and its own set of Akashic record keepers, beings of light in service, so that you can easily understand who you are, who you've been, why you came, and more that we'll talk about.
Beautiful. That sounds like a really busy place, Lisa.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on there.
Yeah, and that kind of makes sense, actually, because I have kind of the impression of that every level of existence has its library. That is, they're all connected. And if you have a library, you've got to have librarians. We have libraries here. We call them libraries, and we got librarians. So that makes perfect sense. Somebody has to organize and keep the records.
Right.
Or something, I should say, more, maybe.
Right. Yes. And, to me, it's interesting because, of course, it's a beautiful idea that these pure light beings, so the interesting thing about the record keepers is that they are pure source energy. They've never been human. They're not galactic. They have not gone on their own soul journey. And the kind of the gift of that is that they also have no judgment, right? They have never been human where we learn a lot of judgment, right? And so it's interesting when I do Akashic record readings for clients, every once in a while, someone will be like, I'm nervous because what if I have all this, bad karma and they judge me? And it's like, it never happens that way because there is no such thing as bad karma. Karma is not punishment, right? It is about your soul growth. And the record keepers are here in service, pure service. So they have no judgment about anything that we do. And so it's nice and it's refreshing, and the vibration is part of source energy. And so when we work in the records, we are literally wrapped in pure love, pure source energy, love and light. So it's a gorgeous energy to be in.
That sounds beautiful. That sounds so beautiful. And it reminds me of Abraham Hicks, where they say that when we go non-physical, we are pure positive energy and everything is just love. I love that. So there's no judgment. Then I would imagine there's no polarity up there either, if it is up, right?
Right. So they actually explain it. They say when souls individuate from source, right? It's kind of like you're born as a soul. You individuate, and some souls, instead of going on a journey, they tell me these kind of funny stories because they're just pure love and light, and they're actually very funny. But they say, imagine that you were a soul that just came down an elevator and you're standing on a busy Manhattan street and you're with everybody who just came out that elevator with you. We were just kind of birthed from source. Here we are, birthed from the elevator, standing there saying, where should we go? What should we do? And some of us think, well, let's go for a walk. Maybe you could get on a bus, you could go for a walk or grab a taxi. But some souls go for a walk and they come upon that energy vibration, which I just consider really that information arm of source where the Akash is stored. And they say, imagine that you went in as this little group of souls and you're like, what can I learn? I want to figure out where I want to go, what I want to do, all of these different things. And you go into the energy of the Akasha and you start to learn. You become a librarian. And so you actually, what the record keepers told me when they asked me to start a school, at that point, I was a mom in the suburbs. I had 3 toddlers. And they said, we'd like you to help us anchor the Akashic Records back on Earth and start a school. And I said, what are you, crazy? I've got 3 toddlers, right? I'm like, I'm a mom in the suburbs. Why me? Why would you ask me of all humans on the planet? Right. And they literally said to me, they said, because you were one of us. You, in the beginning, were an Akashic record keeper. And so you can hear us, obviously, We speak to you and you can hear us. And so that made perfect sense, right? You know how when you hear a truth, something that's right, just true to you, you're like, oh. And so they told me this funny little story about, Manhattan and going into the library and then staying in the library for a long enough time, learning and growing. And then eventually we go on our soul's journey. And eventually I've been a galactic traveler. And of course, we are all great creator beings. And at some point, we decide to come to Earth and experience this unusual level of information and worldly being. So, yeah.
So if somebody asks me, what is the Akashic Records? I can honestly tell them it's a universal library with all information that from past, present, and future involving you and everything else in your existence and the world, possibly. And we may go there and see things in different ways, not necessarily just books. It could be visual images. And how do we experience the actual information there? How do we go about that?
So when I teach my classes, I teach a 5-step wisdom prayer system that the Akashic Record Keepers gave me many, many years ago. Because when they asked me to start a school, I said, okay, how am I going to do that? They said, we will give you energetic keys in the form of sacred prayers that will literally move you from this space and dimension into the Akasha. And so I teach my students my 5-step wisdom, or their 5-step wisdom prayer system. And I teach these energetic keys that will open the door. And then, of course, because most of us have had hundreds and hundreds of lives here on Earth, we have honed different skills. So some of us are more clairvoyant, clairaudient, clairsentient, right? Claircognizant. We have all of these different clairs. And so when I teach my students, I teach them to ask a specific question and then allow the energy information kind of download to come through. And I suggest that writing it out is the easiest way to kind of get out of your head, right? We want to drop out of our head and into our heart center, connecting into the Akasha through our heart and through our crown, using these vibrational keys, and then receive that information. So for some people, if you're clairaudient, you would hear, usually in your own head, in your own voice, but you would hear the answer to your question. And you might get a couple of images or pictures. You might be like, oh, I get a little picture, and then I maybe claircognizant. I know this story. So we all receive the information in a little bit different of a way. And to me, I find that with practice, we start to activate and hone and blend a lot of our clairvoyant, claircognizant, clairsentient, clairaudient aspects in the body. So the information can start to come through actually very full, in a very full sort of way.
That's beautiful. And do people go in majoritively with a question or with multiple questions, or what's your trend, do you notice? Yeah.
So when clients come to me for a reading and energy healing, they usually have a few questions, or occasionally they have kind of like a big question, right? Sometimes people say, what is my purpose anyway? And we might work around that, because everyone has purposes. No one has one purpose. It's not a job description. They're very connected to kind of the spiritual archetypes that we are, the gifts and talents we've honed over many lifetimes. And so purpose is not a simple answer. Of course, if it was simple, if it was like, oh, get a job at, that company, then I'm sure you would have figured it out. But it's a process, or we would be bored. It's one of the things that record keepers often tell me. It's like, it is a process. Life, right? It's a journey. It's fun. So we come in and in an hour session with me, most people can ask 3, 4, 5 questions, kind of depending on the depth and how much healing that they would like or would be useful, really, because the Akashic Record is part of source energy. It is part of the quantum field. And so the phenomenal thing to me is that there is no time and space. So when I'm in your records, I could go back to a past life trauma and heal the energetic trauma that has you stuck in a level of fear or unworthiness or whatever it is the record keepers tell us. We can actually unravel that, kind of unwrite that record, because you've learned that lesson. You've moved beyond it. So it's stuck energy. We can release the stuck energy and then bring the gifts and the wisdom back right into this present moment, because there is no time and space in the quantum. So it's a great gift that we can use and access. And I teach my students, because you can go into past lives and heal past life trauma and reclaim those gifts and talents also. So it doesn't matter if it was 10 years ago or when you were 10 years old or, 1,000 years ago. We can move outside of time and space to heal that.
That brings me to a question. Going back and viewing the past, that is simple. I didn't say easy, but it's simple enough. You could do that. But what about the future? Can you also go into the Akashic Records and let's say that you have thought something into existence so much that it's almost solid, and that might exist in the future. Could you go there and see how it turned out?
So fabulous question. So yes, and it can be so helpful, because the interesting things that we often project from this life into this future are things from actually when we're young, sometimes childhood dreams. So I've worked with clients who have imagined, right, their perfect partner as, right, Prince Charming on a beautiful white steed, and they're wondering, 10 years goes by, why can't I find my perfect partner? Where's my Prince Charming? Well, energetically, they have created this really strong pattern, and that's not really what they want anymore. That was good when they were 5 and they were watching Sleeping Beauty or something. But now, so we can actually go into that possible future clear. Actually, again, we're kind of releasing that childhood energy from it. And when we can release that energy that created that picture, it gets recycled. So it comes back to you for your highest good. So from this moment, I can now consciously create the kind of partner that I would like as an adult, right? And so we can release, recycle, reclaim, clear some of the energy that we've created into the future that doesn't serve us. And we can actually, and again, because there's, hundreds or thousands of possibilities and probabilities out there, the record keepers always say, nothing is written in stone. We do not have that sort of definite future. We do not write our soul's plan in that sort of way. So there might be a lot of possibilities. We may say, I'm looking for that possibility, and, let me understand, let me talk to my future self in this Akashic record, just like I can go back and reclaim past life wisdom from other lifetimes. So I can also go into the future and say, hey, how did I get here? What did we do? Is there anything you can share with me that would be useful to know? And so we can also have those kind of conversations to support ourselves, creating that future that we'd like.
What a beautiful gift. What a liberation for so many people, I imagine. How does healing happen in the Akasha?
So because it is part of this quantum field, the way I see, feel, notice it is often when I open someone's record. So a client comes to me and they say, please open my records. I have some questions. Maybe I have some trauma or emotional pain, or it's kind of actualizing in the body. It's creating physical pain. And so we would open their Akashic records. I speak to these beautiful librarians. They talk to me. I'm pretty clairaudient in that way. I would say, what can we know about, say, this trauma from their childhood, or let's just use an example of a really challenging marriage and divorce, and maybe the partner was emotionally abusive, and it was a terrible breakup, and even though it was 10 years ago, we're still have kind of a broken heart. We're a little afraid to, go forward. Do I even want to have another relationship? Did I plan it? Did I write that into my soul contracts? And so we can actually ask, did this person write a soul contract to have a significant partner, a supportive, kind, loving partner in this life? Is there a contract for that? And we'll often get a yes, because we're smart souls and we write, 10, 12 contracts for significant partners, because we don't know where we'll be in the future. So we can actually understand, oh, yes, you have that contract. Okay, let's go back and clear the energy of the old contract with that first husband or whatever it is, and say, so what was that about? Why would I have married someone who turned out to be emotionally abusive? And we find out that this was a karmic pattern we want to work through. We wanted to learn and grow as a soul. Maybe we ended up becoming a therapist because we realized we could really help other people with what we've learned about, kind of different emotional abuse and trauma. And so we start to understand as a soul, this is the part of our plan. We wanted to grow. And because we're in the quantum field, as we talk about it, we can release contracts that no longer serve. Literally, I see them like little old contracts or scrolls that burn. So they go up in flame, and all of that energy gets recycled, because, of course, everything is actually energy. And so it's just being recycled. So we can clear those old contracts. We can kind of release. I almost see it like blowing it up. I'm a kind of a fan of flame and fire and blowing things up, because energetically, that's what we're doing to release stuck pain, that it gets stuck like an energy ball. And so we blow it up to release it so that energy can be recycled in this quantum field for the highest good of all. And then we can bring it, that which is serving us, right? The gifts, the talents, the wisdom from that past life, from that earlier part of our life, whatever that is, we can actually energetically bring it into this present moment and really drop it into this physical body, so we can start to feel that energy and receive some of that wisdom from ourself.
I love that. I have a couple of ethical-ish questions. Can you access anybody else's records? And I've heard that sometimes some people, for whatever reason, are not permitted access to their records. Is that true?
So interesting. So I love the ethical question. So thank you. Yes. The record keepers long ago, and they're really they're very clear on this. You are not allowed to access anyone else's records without their permission, right? So when I do a reading for someone, I literally ask them to sign a consent form. So I want your consent to open your records. Now, energetic consent certainly works. I figure if someone's going to schedule and pay for an appointment with me, that is consent. but I really like to have them read about what the records are and really how this works, and sign that consent form. So we never do it without consent. And what the record keepers do say, if you misuse or abuse your access into the Akashic Records, you will lose access to the Akashic Records. So if I misused it or opened someone's records who didn't ask me to, I could lose access to the realm. And I have never met anyone who so no one's ever come to me whose records I could not access. Mm-hmm. So there may be people, for who knows what reason. Sometimes there is kind of a past life energy, like if you misused and abused that in another lifetime, you may have to live this lifetime without access to the Akash. I have never met them personally, so I can't speak from experience in that way.
Do any people who go with you actually block the information because they're scared or whatever reason? Does that ever happen?
So, occasionally when I open someone's records, of course they want, but they want the information. But like you say, sometimes we're a little nervous. We think, I'm not always such a nice person. What are they going to say? And again, I just really like to let them know that there is no judgment. And sometimes what I'll notice is there's other people in their energy field that are more likely to be blocking access. Say there's a friend or a partner who maybe is afraid of what you're going to learn. So occasionally energetically, there will be some other energies, which is, usually easy enough just to clear out, send that whoever's energy that is back to them, move it out of this field. You don't belong in their records. You don't belong in their energy field even. So we can clear that out, release that, and then gain access pretty simply.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful.
I got a threefold question for you. First of all, you mentioned soul contracts. How do we create those soul contracts, and who is helping us do that? And why do we have soul contracts when we are supposed to have free will here? Does that impose on the free will, or is it still free will because we decided to do it back out there or in here?
Right.
Or here.
Right. Great questions. Let me see if I remember them all as I'm speaking. So the thing is that before you embody, your soul writes a plan. Okay.
Yep.
You say, I'm going to write this nice plan, and then I'm going to come here, and then I'm going to have amnesia, and I'm going to try and figure out what I wanted to do with my life, right?
Yeah, what's up with that?
It's a little crazy. It is a crazy idea. But before we embody, because it's a big deal to embody, we get excited. We want to come here. And I know a lot of light workers are going to be like, really? I didn't really want to come here. I was a 3-year-old thinking, oh no, what am I doing here again? Right. So I get it. but as a soul, before we embody, we often are very, very, very excited about coming here and helping and all the good things that we get to do. And this is really a beautiful world. And we come really so often in service, and because it's the only really place, dimension where we can learn and grow with this whole amnesia kind of idea. So it's a wonderful place to come and learn, right? Because we don't know everything like when we're in other realms. But we literally, we're going to come back to Earth. There's, so many layers of helpers and guides, angelics, record keepers who help us to say, okay, what do I want to do this time, right? Why am I coming back? Who do I want to do it with, right? Who do I want to write support contracts with? So most of us write a couple dozen support contracts. That means I'm going to support you and you're going to support me. And they may be our parents. They may be our significant partners. They may be our children. Maybe their business partner. Could be your best friend. so we write a lot of them to support each other, to be in support. Sometimes they are people from our original soul family. Like when I was talking about, if you came down in an elevator and that group of souls stepped out of the elevator, that's your soul family. Like you were born in this little basket, or you were born in this elevator. But so there you are with this family, and you run around the galaxies together. So often we have them in our lifetime again and again, and coming in and supporting each other. Now, then we get complicated. So we have these contracts. We write extras because we know we move about. We have free will. We make choices, and we may choose to marry someone who we don't even have a soul contract with because we really want to move to another country or get away from my parents or whatever that might be. So we may make choices based on personality, trauma, egoic desires. So you may actually marry somebody that you didn't write a contract with, and then you may miss that other soul person that you had a beautiful support contract with for a marriage or whatever it is. And because we have free will and because we are very fluid beings, a lot of things come around again, right? Maybe that marriage didn't work out because it didn't have a contract. And then that person shows back up in your life again, or one of those other 5 contracts you wrote for a supportive, significant partnership. Then they show up, right? So it's quite a bit of both. To me, we set up a plan, we write contracts, we have gifts and talents we want to share in the world. And we may or may not choose to do any of those things, or maybe we do some of them and we don't do others. Sometimes we sleep through most of our lives, and then, maybe we have some near-death experience that pops us awake at 50 or 60, and we're like, oh my gosh, there's a whole spiritual world out there. I've been missing that. And then we want to catch up.
And how important is it? So I would imagine, based on what you said, that if people have recurring patterns in their life, they could probably like reverse engineer it, right, up in the Akashic realm with you. And how important is it to, let's say that repeating pattern is so pervasive that they know that, it's some contracts that they agreed to, but they don't know how many or which one. Do you just break all contracts, or how would you handle that?
Right. So I only break contracts that are actually complete, right? So we don't want to muck about in the Akash, right? We don't want to spiritually bypass anyone's soul growth or learning. And so it's very important to ask the record keepers for the help and the guidance. We don't literally just go stomping around. That's why we talk to the record keepers and say, what's going on here? So often a repeating pattern has to do with a karmic pattern. And that means there's some challenge I want to learn about, but I don't really want to learn about it, right? So I want to understand compassion. And so maybe I'm, born to someone who's maybe has some kind of is an alcoholic or has some addictive pattern or something like that. And we as a soul wanted to come in, be the compassion, be that light, maybe even hold a space, even though we're the child of this, say, mother. We really came in with the idea that our love, our light, their memory, everything would kind of wake them up, and they would be like, oh, love is enough. I don't need this addiction. Now, as we know, in this human world, it doesn't usually work out that way, but sometimes it absolutely does. But maybe you're not even aware of that. You go on and then you get married and you end up going, how the heck did I marry an alcoholic? Why am I repeating this pattern? What did I not learn, or what did I not do, right? Was I not able to be compassion and forgiveness and love? Was I not aware of it? Maybe as a kid, I stormed off and said, I'm never going to see my mother again because she didn't wake up and love me, right? So now I feel like a victim. So there's a victim pattern that gets in my karmic pattern. And so now I'm like, okay, now I feel like a victim. And so now I need to figure that out. So again, there comes the husband, the alcoholic husband. If we're pretty conscious, then maybe we figure it out. Oh my gosh, I'm taking this personally. It's not about me. It's their addiction. I'm here to be the love. Maybe help them, get to AA or, break through that pattern. And often once that contract of help and support and being that love, once that contract is completed, whether the person gets sober or not, that doesn't matter. The contract is complete. You did what you came to do. You came to be the love and the support, the compassion. And they, if they say, no, I'm going to drink anyway, I don't care about getting sober, your contract is done. It's actually complete or null and void. And so you're really kind of freed from that. And then energetically, we can burn it again. It's not any use anymore. We learned the lesson. We figured it out. Release the energy. Recycle it for your highest good. Now that you've learned that lesson, grew from that as a soul.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Reincarnating with other people that you have previous lives with, that is kind of contract, but it brings me to a word, and that is soulmates. Most people think that if you find your soulmate, everything is bliss, right? That's what most people are at least hoping to, or they think so. But that may not be totally right, is it? Because maybe there's someone that you have bickering all the time, but maybe you have a contract as a soulmate to learn from each other. Could that be possible also?
Oh, absolutely. So hopefully this doesn't shock too many people, but I don't actually believe in soulmates per se. What the Akashic Record Keepers say is, again, you are born in a basket, or you're born with a family of, 30, 40, 50 other souls. So there's a bunch of you there. And then because we're such huge souls when we individuate, we're huge creator beings out in the galaxies. As we start to embody on planets, we actually do break into numerous pieces. So you might break into 100 pieces and go into 100 bodies. So not one other person. So the way the record keepers explain it is that we have more soul family members. They feel like soulmates because you've been running around together for trillions of years and you know them very well because you've done everything with them. And maybe they actually are part of you that you broke into that 100 pieces, a billion years ago. And so we do write these contracts. A soul family member may come in and say, I'm going to be the bad guy for you. I know you want to learn, about anger. I'm going to be that nasty boss, and you're going to be really angry at me. And then when we go all back home together, we're going to be laughing about how funny that was and how we played that game and how we did all that stuff. So absolutely, your soul family members often play that role, the role of the support team or the role of the whatever, the challenging person, the bad guy, the person who, is in your life. Even in my example of the alcoholic mother, that may well be part of your soul family. She may have said, I'm kind of working on this human addictive pattern thing. So I want to come in and I want to see if I can figure out that I really am all one and I don't need that alcohol anymore. I don't need that addictive pattern because I realized I'm divine. I'm source. And so, let's go do that. Let's see if you can shine the light and I can remember and we can heal that addictive pattern. And it may or may not work out that way.
That's beautiful. Beautiful. Lisa, what do you call the people that are in your basket or your elevator? Do you call it your Akashic family when you come in together? Or Yeah,
I just call them my soul family. Yeah,
very cool.
So that's your original kind of soul family.
Yeah, that brings me to another thought too. Decades ago, I read a book called the dweller of two planets. And I think, isn't there also possible for a soul to have two parallel lives? Or like you said, into 100 pieces, or more than one life that you're living at the same time? How would that work?
Absolutely. I think it's kind of hard to grok. It's a little challenging to wrap your brain around. But if you have 500 past lives on Earth, that means there are 500 aspects of you in the quantum field that are having earthly lives. So not to mention the galactic lives you've got going on out there, right? When you were a blue being on Sirius, or you were living in a water world like I come from. And so, there are, I can't even wrap my brain around it enough to say a number. Like, there's thousands of aspects of us in different places, planes, and dimensions in that quantum field having ongoing lives. So, yeah.
We have a couple of questions from the chat room. Margaret would like to know, what do the record keepers look like, Lisa?
They're just pure energy beings. So, when I teach my students in my online workshops, often people will see kind of maybe a beautiful library or these, these beings in robes and different things like that. Because, we are human and we imagine a lot of these things. But in reality, they say, we do not have names. We do not have bodies. We are pure energy beings of pure source. They have not even had a journey. So they don't even, So, and they have no names. That's why we call them the record keepers instead of by a name.
Beautiful, beautiful. Yeah. One other question is, how do you exercise the Akash knowing access, please? Some tips, please, and thank you.
How to?
Yes.
Well, I'll give you a good tip in this book.
Yeah.
I teach you my 5-step wisdom prayer system. So 5-step wisdom prayer system in Akasha. In the infinite wisdom of the Akashic Records, this is a bigger book all about how to access the Akashic Records. So 5-step wisdom prayer system, it's more fully in the infinite wisdom. There's a shortened version in Akasha. And so I teach you exactly what I teach my online students. And then a lot of times people get it, and then they were like, oh, but I want to learn more. So I teach an online 16-hour workshop, and so that I can teach you all sorts of different healing prayers and guided visualizations to really be the sovereign of your field, to be able to own this energy and start to move into the Akash, to understand what the heck you might have written in that plan that you wrote, right? So kind of learning more so it's easier to understand what they're telling you. So yeah, it's very fun. I love teaching online. I've got a new class starting in October.
That was my next question. And how long does that class run for?
I teach it in 2 weeks. I'm teaching right now very intense. It's 4 hours, 2 days a week for 2 weeks. So it's 16 hours in 4 days because, we're all moving so fast.
Yeah.
Truth. That is the truth. That's beautiful. And what does a session look like with you? How does that work?
Right. Thank you. So when I do an Akashic reading, basically, you would find that available also on my website. So going to Akashic Knowing, very handy. You go under consultations or Akashic readings, and then you can read more about it. You can read about some of the questions, some of the areas that I work with. Of course, we work with people around relationships and abundance, money blocks, vitality, right? Purpose and path, and just all sorts of spiritual questions that people like to ask. So basically, you would just go to my website and schedule and purchase a reading. And then I give you a couple of questions also that are useful to, get an idea. So I email you like, oh, you might want to think about asking questions like this. And then it's nice. We get on the call together and I bring them into the Akashic field with me through a guided visualization so they can feel that energy. And then I just invite them to ask some questions and we get a lot of information. I do a lot of quantum healing for them, helping them shift out of old patterns and beliefs and clear old contracts and emotional pain and trauma from their field so that we are more free to move forward at this important time in history with greater ease.
Absolutely. And I can only imagine how helpful, but also how necessary. I mean, you're here on time, intentionally. We need you. And with so many people who are finding this time difficult and, having some despair, I just can't even imagine the enormity of the gift and the love and the life that you bring back to people in your work.
Thank you. And, I just want to mention one other book, just because when we talk about, this is people's, one of the favorite books. It's called From Questioning to Knowing. And it's got 73 healing prayers that I channeled from the Akashic Record Keepers. Let's just see if I can. And it's got a lovely foreword by Jack Canfield. But it is very healing. I have had so many people email me and say, I keep that book with me because I can just open to these different prayers. It's a prayer of forgiveness or a prayer to fill up with the highest Akashic energy or a prayer for the majestic body. We can do energy healing with these prayers that the record keepers have given me. And so 73 healing prayers to release shame, to release blame, guilt, fear, all of these to, align to your higher self, to create greater strength in your life. So the 4 books definitely are on my website. They're all lined up. You can see all 4 of them. And it's been interesting because the record keepers will say to me, it's time to write another book. And I'll be, okay, what are we writing now? And it's always a little different, right? It is different, but they've been saying for a long time now, as I've been, teaching this work, that it is everyone's birthright to have access to their own Akashic records.
Yep.
To be able to understand the soul plan you wrote, right? To be able to understand who you are really as that infinite soul. To see those phenomenal past lives where we were healers or spiritual teachers or leaders. Maybe we were creating a world or part of a government, right? Maybe we were inventors. So it's really, really important that we start to embrace this greater truth and stop thinking of ourselves as just little humans who are, at the whim of the world or, government. So moving out of the old beliefs of being a victim and really moving into empowerment.
Yes. So, how amazing would it be if we could send all the world leaders to you and have you take them up there, please? That would be amazing.
Yes, from your mouth to divine ears. Right? So.
I love it. That's beautiful.
Yeah, from this conversation, I'm getting one big answer, and that is that nothing really is by total accident. It's either planned by us or it is arranged by us before we were born as a purpose. So it kind of looks like there is a purpose behind it also. For all the atheists and the people that say no out there, listen, because there will be a day when you're going to find that maybe it wasn't quite what you thought. And then you may think back on this, and that might give you some answers even after you drop the body. Could that make any sense?
Absolutely. Absolutely. The kind of the funny thing, because I'm 100% with you, the record keepers often say, your purpose is to understand your soul's plan, right? And so your soul plan is filled with, 50 contracts and gifts and talents that you want to bring from other lifetimes where you've honed those gifts and talents. There's so much that we want to do that is actually based on who we've been and who we've been with and our family and our talents. And so all of that, as well as what do we want to learn? Because we come to learn. We come here because, again, it's a rare place where we can learn and grow as a soul. And so what do we want to learn, right? This is not done to you. You chose to create this in your life. And so when we can start to access the Akash and our own library, of course, that's why I love to teach people and help people do that for themselves. But even when we do readings and healings for clients, it can be so empowering to shift the way you think, to see old hidden beliefs that are unconscious, that have been running your life since you were 4 years old, right? So we can start to really free ourselves from those unconscious patterns and be the creator beings that we truly are and create this beautiful new earth as we're going forward right now.
Thank you for what you do. So beautiful, so amazing. So amazing. Augie usually has a question that he likes to ask for the end of the show. Augie, are you up for that tonight?
Yes, I absolutely am. But first, though, all your books are on Amazon, right?
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. So how many books do you have?
Just 4.
Just 4.
That's more than I have. Anyway, yeah, that's wonderful. Go to Amazon, put her name in, and then they'll all come up. And also take the time to go into the description of each book and read the description of it. That's where you're going to get caught, and you're going to realize that I need this information.
Right. And just let me say, you will find all 4 books listed and shown on the website. So that can be useful to read the description there. My newest book, which is Akasha, you'll get 4 free gifts if you, when you purchase it through Amazon or Barnes and Noble, and then you come back to my website and you put that information in, then you'll get 4 free gifts with guided visualizations and some different tools the record keepers have given me. So you can check all that out at akashicknowing.com.
Sounds good. And also your private consultation with people, will you take them to the Akashic Record and they'll have a look? Folks, this sounds really interesting, so I suggest that you go to the website and have a second look. All right. I do have a question for you, and I didn't tell you about this question because I want to surprise people.
Okay.
The question is, if you could speak to the whole world and the world is listening, what would you tell them?
I would tell them that you are an infinite and wise soul with a plan. And there is so much that you can do, choose, and create in this life to transform your life and to help really transform our world. And so I would say, learn to read your records. It's time.
Yeah. It's time. That's beautiful. That's
Sounds
so beautiful.
Good. Thank you.
Lisa, thank you so much for being here. But just, we have so many amazing guests, and I love when the hour ends and I just feel so effervescent, like my life has been uplifted because your energy is just so beautiful and so loving. And thank you so much for being with us. And thanks, Augie. Thanks, Mac, for producing the show as always. Thanks to everybody in the chat room. We will see you either at the Mastermind Connection, Sunday at the Paranormal Show, or Friday at the Quantum Wellbeing, or right back